welcome to Breaking Through Barriers with PRCA Yorkshire. I'm Lee Purvis, and today I'm joined by some fabulous women who work in industry. So PRCA has always very much been very encouraging around good examples of good practice, best practice when it comes to combating misogyny within our sector. And today we are chatting with four industry knowledgeable women about this in much more detail. So please welcome, chat, tell us your stories and introduce yourselves. So we have Lisa. Do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, hi everyone. Hi Lee, thank you for letting me join today. So I'm Lisa Wood. I'm based over in Manchester. I work in PR and marketing for a tech company, software engineering company, which is primarily male dominated, but lots of amazing females within that business as well. And we have a leader of the business who is female. I've worked in PR for many years now. I actually went to university with Lee, and I used to run the PRCA Northwest. Stepped down a couple of years ago, but I've had lots of different roles within sort of TV, media, health, tech. So it's great to join you all today.
Hannah?
Yes, hi everyone, my name's Hannah Hayter. Thanks Lee for the introduction, and yeah, thank you for the opportunity to join us today. So I'm actually based in Leeds. I'm currently in my final year at university at Leeds Beckett, studying public relations. I currently work at a digital PR agency in Leeds part-time, and I completed a placement year at the Walt Disney Company last year, where I worked in their comms team in London, and then I'm currently writing my dissertation now, looking at kind of gender issues in PR, but more from a student perspective, at kind of young females entering the industry, and what we could be doing more to kind of prepare them for maybe the challenges that they might face.
Katie, tell us about you.
Hi there. Again, thank you for inviting me today, Lee. My name's Katie Eberall. I am a director at Grayling. I'm an integrated comms specialist. My background is pure play agency, but working in a range of sectors from retail, property, infrastructure, energy, through to kind of hospitality and food and drink. I sit on our UK board and leadership team at Grayling, and we also have the benefit of having a female leader, a female CEO at Grayling, and I am also a board member of Women in PR, so really passionate about supporting women into leadership positions, and I chair the PRCA in Yorkshire along with the lovely Lee. So yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Nina, welcome.
Thank you for having me too. Really lovely to join you all. My background is started with in-house roles with marketing and PR. One of my main jobs was at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I was their marketing manager in Newcastle for nearly 10 years. Prior to that, I'd worked in media for a publishing business and within radio, where I met Lee. And then in 2014, I founded my own business, Walton Marketing and Communications, which mainly focused around strategy, so marketing strategy and storytelling, so PR and comms. But more recently, I partnered with a colleague of mine, Sarah, and we've founded Transforming Brands, which is a brand transformation program for scaling businesses. So we work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And I've also recently been invited to join the board of the Lifted project in Newcastle, which I'm really delighted and excited to start. And the Lifted project is all about raising aspirations for female founders, supporting them to scale their businesses, finance, etc. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
Thank you all for being here. So I guess we want to start off by talking about stereotypical behaviour within the industry. Katie, can you tell us a little bit about that when it comes to your background, and have you ever experienced this, and how have you overcome that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've experienced it most from two kind of perspectives. The first is having always worked in regional agencies or in regional offices of network agencies. I think kind of, the perception, not just as a woman, but also as a woman with an accent, kind of comes into it. And I think the way that I always used to deal with it was I used to feel the pressure to kind of try and say something intelligent as quickly as possible to kind of like set out my stall and kind of, demonstrate to people that actually I do know what I'm talking about and that I belong in that room. And particularly kind of in some of the industries that I've worked in, quite often I will be the only woman in the room, kind of talking to a room of asset managers or property directors, and that type of thing as well. So whereas what I've learned over the years, and actually this comes with time and confidence, is that actually, without having to try and do those things, I bring a different perspective in those rooms. So rather than feeling that I have to jump in and say it straight away, I actually tend to sit back a little bit more now and wait for it to play out and wait for the moment, because I'll often be the only person in the room who spots something that people haven't, just through thinking differently through that kind of regional lens of being a woman, etc. And I think it comes from kind of like having that confidence and being more kind of comfortable in your own skin when you get into a leadership position.
And Lisa, what's your take on that? Can you relate to that?
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with what Katie said. I think as you kind of get older and more comfortable in knowing yourself and what you can do, then you feel a lot more stronger in that, when you face with those difficult sort of stereotypical situations. I've had lots of different things over the years. I actually remember one time, going back quite a few years, and it was a female leader of an organization who actually said something about me and about my accent, and sort of my hair colouring and the way I behaved, and maybe that I needed to change a few things. And I think at that time it really took me back, and I still remember that to this day. And I actually feel quite upset that it was a female that said that to me. But yeah, I mean, at the minute I work within a tech company that I said that's predominantly male, but extremely supportive of females within the workplace. We've got, as I mentioned before, an MD who's a female. I don't feel like I have any stereotypes at the moment, but maybe that's come with an age or whatever, but I think things change. But I think when you're faced with those difficult situations, it's always been quite strong and trying to actually show people that that they're wrong in terms of their thinking or their stereotypes, that stereotypical behavior they're trying to think of you. So yeah, it's difficult. I think it'll always be there, and it's one that we always have to try and challenge. Nina,
what sort of barriers have you faced?
I think just echoing what the ladies have said there, just with regards to, there have been, generally most people have been really, really supportive. I think if you're good at what you do, people are, but I think in terms of my accent, I think, the Scouse accent and the jokes and a bit of banter around that, which, I've had a little bit. And also sometimes, I think people are being complimentary, but, talking about your appearance or things like that sometimes have been referenced as well. And, as a woman, that they're nice as well, but it's sometimes makes you feel a bit uncomfortable. But yeah.
Hannah, in terms of your research, what's jumped out at you? What's like the biggest statistic or the biggest area that has really shocked you?
Yeah, I think, and as you guys have touched on, I think that Queen Bee syndrome has been a big thing of like women actually maybe not potentially helping other women, like comments about how you look, comments about wearing this at certain meetings or things like that. And I think that's been quite shocking in such, in a leadership role where it's predominantly male. You'd feel like women who have actually, achieved them senior positions would be doing as much as they could to almost bring up, other people. So that's been really shocking. I kind of wasn't aware of that as I am now. But especially when I worked at Disney, I think the stereotypes that were kind of maybe pushed onto me was that you need to kind of like apologize, or when you're writing emails to like certain people, it's not, you can't be quite as assertive. You've got to like, hope it's okay, like really sorry, can I just ask for this? I think that was quite pushed from my experience. It's kind of women kind of having to like dance around topics and not necessarily being able to be as direct as potentially a male colleague could be.
And I think that comes with experience, doesn't it, and time. And I think a lot of that comes down to advocating as well. And I think there's a lot to be done about advocating for ourselves as individuals, but also for other women. And it's really interesting, Lisa, you talked about male and female bosses and that dynamic. I've had some fantastic female bosses. I've had some awful female bosses, same with, you know, male as well. So when it comes to advocating and standing up for each other, and, you know, there's this perception, isn't there? Sometimes we can be judgy, women can be judgy. Nina, have you ever experienced that, where you've been working alongside another woman and that's been an issue in itself and you've had to sort of really advocate?
I think there's sometimes where people may judge you before they know you as a person based on either how you look, how you sound, and you sense that sometimes. But generally, I think when you do a good job, your personality shines through, that kind of falls by the wayside. And I think we all do it subconsciously. We all make judgments prior to knowing someone as an individual. And I think it's just about being there for people. And I'm just a massive believer in being a cheerleader for other women in the industry, other men in the industry, making people feel good about themselves. And, I think you just have to, it's that supportive community that you need around you. You just need to, uplift people. I've got a lot of, particularly my business partner, Sarah, we work hard, we have, banter every day where, we're really kind of support each other as women and, in what we do every day. So it's great.
And Katie, talking board level, director level, cutting through to that level within your career, what sort of barriers have you faced in terms of, perhaps male colleagues, perhaps being a bit more blunt about certain issues, or, how confident have you felt throughout your career climbing the career ladder, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been very, very fortunate that I've had a lot of male and female advocates throughout my career. So I don't think I've probably faced barriers in terms of kind of progressing the career ladder as such. What I would say is, being a board director, I feel a huge responsibility to advocate for the women within the business and to do the right thing for them, and to call out behaviours that are not right, either within the business or whether that's kind of client behaviours. And, those things still happen way too much in all walks of life. And I think one of the things in particular, a lot, and it's not even kind of, overtly kind of, sexist attitudes that we're talking about, although of course they exist as well. It's just kind of, complete lack of understanding about how some of these things affect women in the business. So the best example that I can probably give is kind of the conversation about flexible working and hybrid working, and just the lack of understanding among not just men, but predominantly men, about how that has opened up a more level playing field for women who traditionally kind of have more of the caring responsibilities at home. And, making very, very overt kind of open public comments on social media about how we need to be back in the office 5 days a week, and we did it before COVID, without any kind of understanding. I mean, I talk quite openly to a lot of people at Grayling now, because I can afford to in my position as a leader, about how at the start of 2022 I had 2 very young children. I was on the verge of leaving Grayling. I've been there for almost 14 years. I just couldn't do the role as it stood, and also kind of balance the demands at home. And COVID made it possible for me to not only continue to do that, but to continue to do a great job at that. I've had 2 promotions in that time. That's a senior leader within a business that would be another lost statistic if it hadn't been for that. And I just don't think that there's enough understanding of how those types of issues have created a more inclusive working environment. And that's not just inclusive, from a female perspective, that's also, all walks of life, other different kinds of diversity.
Absolutely. And Hannah, you were mentioning before that you found some research yesterday, which was really shocking as well. Have you come across any statistics with regards to women actually leaving the industry because of attitudes, misogyny, sexism?
Yeah. So when I was doing research, I think it was, like 40% of women, leave, like when they get to leadership roles, they find that they either don't get there because, you know, sexist attitudes, or they can't come to like after work social elements because they have to go home with their children, so they're not viewed as a team player and things like that. And I think definitely a big factor when I was doing my interviews with students was worrying about taking that career break and going on maternity leave, and then what's the support like coming back. And it was kind of like how, you know, I think the statistic was like 54% of men are still in senior leadership positions and only like 43% are women. So that was definitely kind of something that was picked up in my research with students, was worry about having children, and does that, you know, kind of cap you at your career ladder.
And I think there's still such a big stigma, isn't there, about, you know, the whole women childcare issue as well. I used to absolutely dread saying, I've really got to leave at 5 to 5. I have to go to an after school club, you know. And I think, you know, and I've seen that coming from tabloids years ago to now as well. It hasn't really changed that much. Lisa, I know we've talked quite a lot about life in general in PR as a woman and across the comms industry, and health issues are huge for all of us. And yes, it's less taboo talking about the menopause and periods, but you know, how do you think the culture shifted in our sector when it comes to the menopause, for example?
I think things are changing massively and rapidly. I feel very fortunate. The business that I work in at the minute, I found out a few years ago I'd got endometriosis and something called adenomyosis. I don't know how you pronounce it. I think Naga Machetti off the BBC has got both of those conditions as well. And I started chatting to some of the women at work and found out they were suffering with this, and then other things like fibroids and lots of different female conditions, and obviously, you know, the period as well. But menopause, I think all the media, probably from Davina McCall and other celebrities talking about the menopause, has really put that into the public domain. And I feel very fortunate, or I work, we've got lots of amazing males who really want to understand more about female conditions. And a lot of these are very young, may not have a partner, they're just interested in their female colleagues, or maybe their mom or their sister or their friend. And I think just having those opportunities to have more conversations and chats about how we're feeling, and obviously, you know, don't forget there's obviously lots of conditions that impact the males as well, but actually being more open and honest about health and the impact they might have on us, and obviously the cycle as well. You know, our hormones, we all know we have different peaks in the month, where there may be one week where I'm probably better to work from home because I'm not particularly feeling as energetic as other times of the month, and then other times I'm like raring to go and zooming around the office. So I think the more we can have those conversations more open and honestly with people on all different levels, different genders, is really, really important to sort of break those barriers.
And again, going back to what you were saying there, it's a bit about, you know, the flexibility, the understanding. It's got to be the culture, isn't it? You've got to have that. So Nina, do you think that mentoring, having another perhaps female mentor, could be something that can really help when it comes to climbing up the career ladder in PR?
Absolutely. I think we all learn from each other, you know, and I think, you know, I think it doesn't matter what age you're at. I think it's really important to seek out that support and to advocate and to cheerlead and all those things that we should do for each other. So I've had lots of people that have inspired me throughout my career. You know, a lot, fortunately, some of them have been men, some of them have been my kind of managers. There was Paul Woolston at PricewaterhouseCoopers was amazing. And I think it's just about, yeah, supporting each other and seeking that out as well, and being brave enough to actually find those advocates in the business if they're not readily available to you. Because I think it boosts your confidence as well, and there's so much you can, you know, achieve if you have that support around you, but being proactive in seeking it out.
Yeah, seeking it out is really important. And we were talking about asking for help. We mentioned that as well. Katie, in your position, you know, you must understand, you know, some of your staff, for example, asking for help and the importance of that as a female in this industry. You know, how do you encourage other women to ask for help? Because it's a really difficult thing. It can be a difficult thing to do, can't it?
Yeah, it can be a really difficult thing. I mean, I would always describe myself as a people first leader, and you know, I like to think that I embed that within the team, that, you know, you're people first, and, you know, because that people's lives do come first, you know, the important things and the difficult things that happen to us. And so we do have quite an open and honest collaborative culture. And, you know, I would always encourage people to come and talk to me, but we do have other things in place as well to kind of help get over those barriers. So things like buddy systems, things like an employee helpline, so that there's other mechanisms and mechanics for people being able to talk if they don't feel comfortable doing that, you know, with me as their, you know, manager, or, you know, with their direct line manager. It means that there's other avenues for people to explore. But I very much believe in allyship and community for women working within PR. I think it's just so crucial and so critical, and I don't think I'd be where I am today without a supportive group of women around me, both in work and outside of work as well. I was very fortunate to kind of go up through the ranks with a couple of women at the same time, where we really supported each other at every stage going through, and I just think that that's so important, to be able to have that network around you.
A total sisterhood. And Hannah, final question to you. So, coming into the industry as somebody relatively new into entering the industry, how have you found perceptions of you?
I've found perceptions of me. I think, you know, I have been touching on that mentorship part. I have been really lucky with, you know, all the teams I've worked in have been all female, and I've had some really great female managers. But I have found a lot of the senior, like, directors are all men. So that's been kind of interesting. It's actually interesting seeing how, you know, my manager actually interact with men as well, and kind of like, you know, if you go to a meeting where there's a senior person there, almost watching the shift, or like the shift of how they speak or how they interact. So I think perceptions of me, I have always been relatively positive. I think because I'm junior as well, it's almost like, you know, if I was to maybe not come across as well as I could, it's kind of an excuse because I'm young. But I think I do worry that, you know, especially in leadership, that being that assertiveness, and like, do women have to kind of take on this more masculine traits to kind of succeed? But I think a huge advocate for like mentorship, especially at university. Like, I know Tila, you spoke to Tila, like, she's been a great mentor. And I think to have someone to speak to, that not just about your work or how to, you know, do X, Y, Z, but actually like that personal and get through them challenges and things like that is really important.
So there's a lot to be positive about, isn't there? And an overall message of empowering each other and caring, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So where can we find, before we go, let's, you know, find out your social media handles. Tell us where we can find out more about you. Hannah, go for it.
I can connect with you on LinkedIn. My name's Hannah Hayter. Yeah, I'll follow you all on there. That would be great. Thank you.
Thanks. Katie?
Yeah, you can also find me on LinkedIn, Katie Aberall, and you can also find out more on the Grayling website, www.grayling.com.
Nina?
Yeah, again on LinkedIn, Nina Walton, or we have a page, Transforming Brands. We also have an Instagram, Transforming Brands, and our website is www.transformingbrands.co.uk.
Lisa?
Yeah, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Lisa Wood. Yeah, love to connect, reach out. Happy to help and chat.
Thanks so much for joining, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.